What do you do when your prayers don't even have words anymore? When your tears speak louder than your voice? When night after night your bed becomes your battlefield and your pillow is soaked from weeping, not once but again and again? This isn't for the ones who have it all together. It's for the weary, the bruised, the ones barely holding on by a thread. This is Psalm 6, not just a prayer, but a breaking point, a turning point, a place where desperation meets divine mercy. It begins in the dark, but it doesn't stay there. It begins with sobs, but ends with strength. And if your soul is aching, you're not alone. Because David, the warrior, the king, the man after God's heart, once prayed this too. In the middle of a storm he thought he wouldn't survive. When the thunder outside sounded quieter than the storm inside. And if it happened to David, the chosen one, it can happen to anyone. But so can the breakthrough. Verse 1, O Lord, rebuke me not in thine anger, neither chasten me in thy hot displeasure. David opens this psalm not with power, but with pleading. He's not hiding behind titles or strength. He comes to God like a wounded child coming to a father's arms. God, please, don't correct me with anger. Don't discipline me with heat. He knows he's flawed. He knows he's failed. But he also knows that if God corrects him out of wrath, it will be too much for his fragile heart. Sometimes when life breaks us down, it's not about defending ourselves, it's about throwing ourselves at the feet of mercy. David isn't making excuses, he's just asking God to deal with him gently. And how many times have we needed that? Not a harsh lesson, just a soft touch from heaven. Verse 2, Have mercy upon me, O Lord, for I am weak. O Lord, heal me, for my bones are vexed. He says it plainly, I am weak. In this culture that worships strength, David admits his lack of it. He says, God, I'm exhausted, not just tired, I'm wrecked. His bones, his very structure, are troubled. It's not just his mind, it's not just his soul. His body is suffering under the weight of what he's carrying. That's how grief works. That's how stress destroys. It gets into your bones, into your posture, into your health. And in this moment, David is teaching us something important. You don't have to pretend to be strong in prayer. You can bring your weakest self to God, and he won't turn away. Verse 3, My soul is also sore vexed, but thou, O Lord, how long? This is the sound of someone at the edge. He's not just weak in body. His soul is weary. His heart feels shattered. And so he asks the question we've all whispered in our darkest nights. How long, Lord? How much more can I take? It's not disrespect. It's desperation. He's not doubting God's goodness. He's asking about God's timing. And that kind of honesty is holy, because God would rather have your real cry than your fake praise. Verse 4, Return, O Lord, deliver my soul. O save me for thy mercy's sake. David pleads, Come back to me. It feels like God is far, not because he is, but because pain can make his presence seem distant. And David says, Save me, not because I've earned it, but because you're full of mercy. That's what grace looks like, asking for rescue not because of your worthiness, but because of his character. It's okay to ask for help when you've got nothing left. In fact, it's one of the most powerful prayers you can pray. Verse 5, For in death there is no remembrance of thee. In the grave who shall give thee thanks? David is saying, God, I want to live. I want to worship you again. I don't want my life to end in this sorrow. Let me live long enough to praise you again. In those days, remembrance wasn't just a mental activity, it was active worship. To remember God was to honor him, declare his goodness, and give thanks out loud. David is saying, If I die now, my song dies with me. My worship, my testimony, my story, they all go silent. This is more than survival, it's a cry for purpose. a desire to live because worship matters. Because when the broken lift up praise, it becomes a weapon, a witness, and a healing balm. David isn't afraid of dying. He's afraid of not finishing the praise he was born to give. He knows that the grave is silent, not just physically but spiritually. He's saying, "Don't let my voice be silenced in death. Let it rise again in praise." This is not just about fearing death. It's about longing for restoration. It's about believing that the best way to honor God is to live through the pain and come out worshiping on the other side. Because praise means more when it comes from a place of pain. When you've walked through the valley and still choose to raise your hands in surrender, that worship carries weight in heaven. It shakes hell. It strengthens others. And it reminds your own heart that God is still worthy, even when life is still hard. Verse 6, "I am weary with my groaning. All the night make I my bed to swim. I water my couch with my tears." Have you ever cried so long, so deep, so hard, that you didn't think you'd have anything left inside? That's where David is. He says, "I cry until my bed is soaked." This is grief that won't be silent. This is weeping that refuses to be hidden. And he's not ashamed to say it. He's not embarrassed to admit his nights are full of groans and floods of sorrow. This is what it means to be human. And this is what it means to pray from the soul. Verse 7, "Mine eye is consumed because of grief. It waxeth old because of all mine enemies." Tears change your face. Pain changes your eyes. David says, "My eyes are tired from grief. They've aged from all the crying." He's been under attack, not just by people, but by the weight of his sorrow. And it's visible. He's worn. Not from running, not from war, but from hurting too long without healing. Verse 8, "Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity, for the Lord hath heard the voice of my weeping." Now, here comes the turn. The atmosphere shifts. The pain is still present, but the faith rises. David says, "Back off, all you enemies. God heard my tears." He doesn't say God heard his speech. He says God heard his weeping. That means your tears preach louder than your mouth sometimes. That means God speaks the language of pain. The moment David realizes he's been heard, he starts to rise. Verse 9, "The Lord hath heard my supplication. The Lord will receive my prayer." Now he declares it, not with doubt, but with boldness. God has heard me. He will answer me. That's faith in motion. And sometimes the only thing that changes the atmosphere in your room is when you speak what you believe, even if you haven't seen it yet. Verse 10, "Let all mine enemies be ashamed and sore vexed. Let them return and be ashamed suddenly." David finishes with confidence. "The same way I was broken, let those who mocked me be silenced in their pride." This isn't personal revenge. It's prophetic trust. He's not praying for punishment out of spite. He's declaring that God will defend the brokenhearted. That shame will not rest on the wounded, but on those who oppress them. And that justice, divine, holy, righteous justice, will not delay forever. This is David letting go of the fight and letting God carry the final word. Because real healing begins when you stop fighting in your own strength and start trusting in his timing. He knows that if he holds on, God will lift him. If he waits, God will act. The same God who heard his tears will one day silence every mocking voice, not because David demanded it, but because God is faithful to those who suffer in silence. And when God rises on behalf of the broken, no one can stop it. Shame will be reversed. Stories will be rewritten. And the same mouth that once cried in agony will shout again in victory. Psalm 6 is a journey from sobbing to strength, from brokenness to boldness, from questions to confidence. It shows us that you don't have to be put together to come to God. You just have to be honest, and when you are, he listens, not just to your words, but to your tears, not just to your requests, but to your heart. So if tonight you find yourself in David's shoes, if your pillow is wet, your body is tired, your soul is screaming, remember this: morning always follows the night. Hope rises from sorrow. And healing, slow, steady, holy healing, starts with a cry that says, "Lord, have mercy." That one whisper can break open heaven. That one prayer can shake the silence. That one tear can remind you you are not alone, not forgotten, not forsaken. Because the same God who lifted David is still lifting people today. And he can lift you. If this message touched you, drop a comment below. Even if all you can type is "Amen," let it be your way of saying, "God, I'm still here." If this word resonated with your spirit, don't scroll away. Respond. Say something. Anything. Because your voice matters. Your pain matters. And your healing matters. If you're going through something personal, I want you to know you're not alone. Drop your story in the comments. I'll do my best to pray with you, and this community will stand with you. Someone else might read your comment and find hope because of your courage. Hit that like button if this message spoke to your heart. It tells YouTube this video matters and helps it reach someone else who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss another moment of healing, faith, and truth. We're building a family here, one tear, one testimony, one psalm at a time. Share this with a friend who needs it, someone whose pillow has been soaked in silence. Let them know God still hears. God still heals, because one honest cry can change everything. And sometimes your tears are the doorway to your greatest testimony. Stay with us because we're just getting started. And the next chapter of your faith, it begins now.